Hey guys, what's up? One of the things I've wanted to talk about for some time is the role of parries and critical attacks more generally in a tryhard's arsenal. So, by a tryhard, I mean somebody who's concerned only with winning an invasion. They don't necessarily care about how much fun they're having, they don't necessarily care about the tactics they're employing. They're simply looking for the most efficient way to get kills in an invasion. And that probably describes me mostly. I care about having fun outside of simply whether I win or lose. But for me, it's mostly about winning or losing. And I want to talk about whether parries make sense, whether critical attacks make sense, what's the right sort of approach to have in mind if, again, your only concern is with winning invasions. And I think really in order to have that conversation, you have to start by talking about what it is about critical attacks and parries that makes them valuable to use in invasions. I think in some sense, asking what makes them valuable is kind of a silly question on its surface because it's kind of obvious, right? They do a lot of damage, and anything that does a lot of damage is a good thing. And notice there, I didn't go for the parry, even though a lot of times people use that axe weapon art and they'll immediately swing out of the weapon art, even if they don't successfully land an attack. I didn't do that there because I wasn't sure how he would react, and there were things that he could have done instead of an R1 that could have punished me, and so I'm going to wait and get a read on this guy, and there I just make a silly mistake and swing into his hyper armor. But I usually try to go and get a read on opponents first, simply because otherwise, if you don't do that, the critical attacks can be suboptimal. You can end up getting yourself in a difficult position. And there I go for the second swing parry because he had shown over and over that he was liable to swing into that. I'd gotten a read on him. So why would you want to use a parry, really? And the answer, I think, is best explained by reviewing a couple of different graphs. If you look at this graph that I've created, this shows a model of your opponent's health level over time. So initially, they start off maybe around 1600 HP. You hit them a few times, their health decreases, and then they Estus, and then they're back up to full health or close to full health. And this pattern continues. And with a single opponent over time, they could have up to 15 Estus. And the situation is only worse when you have multiple opponents, each with their own Estus pool. And if there's other invaders, a single invader death gives each of those opponents a single Estus. And that can easily mean 3 or 4 Estus as a consequence. So winning through attrition like this can be very, very difficult. You essentially have to bleed out their entire Estus pool before you're able to prevail. I think it's also useful to look at duels. So clearly in a duel, there's no Estus. And so there's a kind of linear relationship over time. As soon as you attack somebody, you hit them, their health decreases, and that health decrease is permanent. There's really no way for them to increase it aside from certain miracles, but we'll put those to the side. As soon as you do damage, there's no way essentially for your opponent to re-heal that damage. And then we're going to go ahead and let's look at something different. So now we get to the opponent health graph, and this is with a parry riposte. And this to me is the core benefit of parry riposte, is that it prevents your opponent from ever getting to their Estus flask. This to me is the real reason that you go for critical attacks, not just because of the damage that it does, but it does a specific type of damage. It does a big chunk of damage all at once. And if your opponent isn't at full health or you have a Chaos Hornet Dagger, you can put that opponent down in a single attack. And this is the reason that you want to use critical attacks, especially in invasions. In a duel, there's really not as much of an advantage because they can't go to their Estus flask. So if you can reliably do small amounts of damage over time, that's very beneficial, especially if you can do it at low risk. Parries do involve risk, but the reward is potentially very large. And the reward is directly proportional to the amount of Estus your opponents have. The more Estus they have, the more valuable it is to go for a parry, which means that we should be willing to incur more risk to attempt a parry. So what I thought I'd do today is walk you guys through a couple of invasions and walk you through my mindset as I make various decisions related to the invasion. And you can see here, these two guys both have big hyper armor weapons. And the risk here is that if they hit me even once, they could easily stun lock me into death. So I got to be very careful and pick my spots. The advantage here is that they're likely to chase me, which leaves me open to doing roll backstabs, which provided you have good position, they're relatively safe. Now you have to learn about positioning, and it will take some time to get that right. So one thing I've realized, any strategy can be effective in the right amounts. And if you're thinking about parries as an example, parry spamming is probably not an optimal strategy, but neither is never using it. There's always an optimal amount to be chosen. And the question is, what is that optimal amount? And sometimes the optimal amount is going to be zero or very close to it. But sometimes the answer is going to be to do it a bit more often, and you have to judge the circumstances, your opponent tendencies, the odds of you winning without using it. All of these things have to be factored in. And of course, it's very difficult in the heat of battle to make these calculations. And so, really, these calculations are a sort of heuristic that you're building up over time and over experience and learning from your success and learning from your mistakes as well. So in this particular situation, I don't want to fight these guys out there. I want to bring them into where the PvE is. And so I'm going to chuck some fire bombs at them. And right here, I see that this guy is going to do rolling attacks when I throw bombs at him. He's going to fall victim to the Barker Bombay. You never want to go for a Barker Bombay first thing because a lot of people know what it is and will go to backstab you if you try it. However, this guy has already shown that he will fall prey to it. So, of course, I'm going to immediately start throwing more bombs at him here because this is a very, very easy way for me to put him away and at really low risk. It's not zero risk. You can always whiff a parry. He could always change it up. And this is actually pretty funny here. So I'm trying to chase him down, and really I should have switched over to my straight sword here to try and finish him off. And there I screw up the running attack. I get hit from behind. I roll into it. And here I go to heal and realize I grabbed the bomb instead, but the accident ends up working out for me as I'm able to finish him off. That was very, very lucky. I won't claim that was done on purpose. And here I see he can't get away, so I'm just going to kind of give him a wave when he realizes he's stuck. And there I go for the third swing, the third R1 parry. And that's a much less reliable parry, and I'll go for that at close to full health. But generally speaking, I stay away from that one because it's so unreliable, especially with a shield. Now with a Cestus, you can rely on that a bit more. And there's the kick. Kicks are so valuable, and I've been thinking about making a video all about kicks, so we'll have to see about that. So here in my next invasion, I'm hunting for the host. I find him and I see immediately he's wearing a thrall hat. And he's also using a rapier, and that's not a typical lone host sort of weapon to use. So this guy probably knows what's up. And I also see a small shield on his back. And there's the shield. So the shield comes out, so I know he's looking for a parry right away. And there he already whiffs one, and I kind of half-assedly ran around to his back. So I'm right now, really what I'm trying to gauge is how likely is this guy to try to go for parries, because I'm going to try to crank up the aggression, but I don't want to do that if I think he's liable to parry me. And there's like the third one already. So at this point, I'm really just trying to bait him out to parry so I can go around and stab him in the back. And this is a case of a guy that's using parries way too often. And there's the backstab. He should have realized that I wasn't swinging, that I was running for his back, and that is a great wake-up punish. I highly recommend using that weapon art that way. Just be careful with those wake-up punishes because they can be parried. This is something to keep an eye on, especially if they're expecting that attack. So as I run up to join this party here, I notice that this guy's in his menu, probably going for a blessing. I'm able to take him out, and there's actually another invader on the way behind me. So I'm trying to get between the party. We can try to flank them. And here I'm just trying to do an assessment. I see the Sunbro parried the Lothric Knight. That takes at least some skill, so that guy probably has some idea of what he's doing. In here, I immediately get rid of the hyper armor weapon because I'm getting out hyper armored here by the host for sure. And so there's no reason to have a slow weapon like that. I might as well go with the faster straight sword. And there you'll see when he rolled at me, I did not go for the weapon art because I thought he might try to bait me. And sure enough, there's a jumping attack. All signs that he knows the parry risk of the rolling attack, and he's trying to be cautious. So right now I'm just trying to keep pressure on this guy. That would have been a backstab had he not gone for the rolling attack. I'm basically going to give the rolling attacks up for free here. If he wants to go for a rolling attack, he's going to be able to hit me every time with it. And I'm doing that because I want to habituate him to tell him that, yes, rolling attacks are perfectly safe. And eventually what will happen is he'll just keep doing them to the point where he ends up getting killed. And here I bet the farm that he's going to panic roll. If he hadn't, if he had swung instead, he probably would have killed me. So this invasion starts off a bit funny. I see these guys are losing health, and I think, are they poisoned? Is there another invader here? Nope, they both have the symbol of avarice on, and I'm assuming this was to farm souls. I can't think of any other reason why they would have been doing it. And there I went for a roll BS, but I was locked on, and so those are a lot less easy to land. And the host uses a seed here, which is actually probably a smart time to use it. But then he inexplicably doesn't come into attack, which is what he absolutely should be doing here, rather than hoping that that the knight's just going to kill me. So there I'm able to predict the second R1 and get some really good spacing and put good pressure on this guy. And I think at this point the host has actually taken off the symbol of avarice, but this guy hasn't, and that's putting a lot of pressure on him. So now the seed's about to wear off, I'm going to back off and heal, and now the host is going to come and try to get away from both of us. Go for the kick in case he had decided to wait in there, and now the seed is worn off, and this guy's now in full-on panic and run mode. So I go for a couple of guard breaks, but he's just rolling and panicking, so he's not going to throw up his shield at this point. And so now I know he's running to heal. He wants to heal, so I'm trying to stay right on his right on his back so that I can get the punish. I'm able to get the punish. I go for the kick on wake up because a lot of hosts like to throw their shield up when they wake up, and I'm able to finish him off. So here we're midway through an invasion already. I see another invader's joined me. There's 3 opponents out there. There's absolutely no way in hell I'm going to go out there and fight these guys, even though we've been stuck here at kind of a stalemate for at least a couple of minutes. There's just no way that I'm going to be successful going out there. Well, finally I'm able to bait this guy in. I go for the roll backstab because there's nobody else around in case I whiff it. I almost kill him, and I have to back off, but then I realize because of the other invader now, I've got a chance at finishing this guy off. So I know he's going to try to heal, and I'm ready for it. And I've got the rapier, which gives me extra grab potential, and I'm able to finish him off. Now it's 2-on-2. So because the host is able to stay busy with the other with the other invader, I'm able to go for the locked on roll backstab. That move has so much recovery, I'm able to get it even with him locked on. I'm trying to put pressure on him, and then I realize the other invader already killed the host. And we're able to turn that around very, very quickly. So this is actually going to be the last invasion that I showcase today. This is my soul level 44 build. I believe this is a dark build. And I wanted to show some of the criticals in the context of a larger invasion. And this ends up actually being a 4v1 invasion. And I want to emphasize, I'm really not trying to cherry pick like my better moments and sort of hide when a lot of failed backstabs got me killed. There were definitely some. And what I learned actually in the course of making this video is that when I did fail on backstabs and it got me killed, it was generally speaking, it was because it was at a high level and there were more than 2 opponents and they were all around me at the same time. So if you whiff a backstab and you don't get the iframes associated with the backstab, it can leave you very vulnerable. And that's something you really want to keep in mind. So here I see that Sunbro, he's going for the weapon art. He's following through the weapon art all the way through the R2, even when he's not hit confirming the first, and that's an awesome recipe for a backstab. So you can see I already went for it once and I whiffed it. I think the uneven terrain here is actually causing me a few whiffs. And with 4 opponents, even though 2 of them are NPCs, this can be very difficult. And there I thought I hit the Sunbro before his hyper armor, and that's why I went for the second R1. I was sure that I'd put him into stun lock. So here, again, I go for the backstab. I'm not sure why I didn't get that. I don't know if I hadn't been hit, if maybe I would have gotten the grab. It's difficult to say. But especially because this is soul level 44, I can take some more chances. And that impressed me right there. The host reaction rolling that straight sword R1, and that was a questionable decision on my part to block that. I really shouldn't have done that, and I shouldn't have gone for the second R1 there. Those were both, the block could have been a very costly decision, but I was able to get away with it. And there when I see him throw something at me, I see the perfect time for a pivot, and finally I'm actually able to land a backstab. And so now I've got the Sunbro on the run. He doesn't have much health left, But with 3 opponents in pursuit, it's very difficult. But here the perfect situation presents itself. The backstab puts me into iframes, and I'm able to get rid of him. And that was probably worth the risk. Just because anytime in like a 4v1, when you can take one opponent out, the odds of winning go up so much, probably by like a factor of 10 or 20. And here I'm trying to get space to heal, and the host is pressuring me, so I'm having to swing my sword at him to get him to back off. The whiffed weaponer finally gives me a healing window. And there I see him use a blue flask. And anytime you see somebody use a blue flask in the heat of battle, it's a good bet that they either want to do a weapon art or they want to go ahead and use some sort of spell. And they'll probably do it within about 10 seconds afterward. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for checking in. I hope you guys enjoyed this.